One of the best things you can do to pull your whole team together and to inject some passion and direction into your people is to share your company's history with them. The pastor of the first church I ever attended was a master at this. Pastor Hardwick was always telling the stories of the church to his staff and those of us in the pews. He used it as a way to plug us into, to graft us into the history of the organization and point us to the future. Pastor Hardwick started that church when he was 19 years old in a little building at the corner of Rose and Sadler Street in Nashville. The whole congregation consisted of his wife and a few other relatives. This was a teeny tiny startup, okay? They started growing and they were able to buy a little lot in that same neighborhood, but only had enough money to pour some concrete to put a basement in, and that's all they could do on the lot. They worked their tails off raising support. They sold donuts and cakes door to door. They built relationships in the community, and eventually they were able to actually build a church on top of that basement years later. The church kept growing. Pastor Hardwick spied some land that was nothing but really a tree-covered hillside. He walked that land with his mother, and this great woman of God, this great woman of faith said, "Son, God is telling me we should buy this land." They did. They were able to build a new church on that spot. Now it's about 30 years into the church's history. And that's when I first joined the congregation. It's gone on to become one of the premier churches in America with 7,000 people in the pews every week at its peak. I could talk for an hour about the history of the church right down to the tiniest of details. But I wasn't there for most of those times. I can picture the corner of Rose and Sadler Street in my mind in perfect detail, but I've never been there. Pastor Hardwick did such a fabulous job plugging his church members into the greater history of the organization that every one of us who sat under him can tell the story in our sleep. He made us all part of the story. And that totally changed how we interacted with him, with each other, with the whole church. It was incredible. You need to do the same thing in your business. Think of all the stories that got you where you are today, all the big deals and the funny little anecdotes, and spread that history all through your team. Help them see themselves as part of something bigger. And if you got new people in the office, show them that they're standing on the shoulders of giants.